As you may know, Microsoft ended their E3 2016 conference pretty strongly with the announcement of Project Scorpio or Xbox One Scorpio, depending on your choice of naming. And of course, we already knew before E3 that Sony wouldn't be showing the Neo at E3, but given what Microsoft did with their very strong ending of their conference, it's obviously led people to ask even more, well, how come Sony didn't show the Neo at their conference? It would have been a very strong answer to what Microsoft actually did at theirs. And I've got some comments on this from the global head of marketing over at Sony, Jim Ryan, and according to him it's because Sony wanted E3 to focus on the quote-unquote pure story of games and save hardware announcements for another time. So this may mean that we still get an announcement this year, maybe Gamescom or something like that. I doubt it will release this year, but we'll probably get an announcement this year, but they wanted E3 to focus on the games. And here's what he had to say about the absence of Neo at E3. He said, quote, "We had such a strong and I'd say pure story about games. You are not alone in making the comment, and I think it is a legitimate comment about only just getting going on the game side of things on PS4. I think that needed to be addressed, and by focusing exclusively on the games last night, hopefully we have laid that bogey to rest. We did disclose some high-level principles in that FT piece for the thing we call Codename Neo. In terms of the very public articulation of it on a stage, we really want to be ready and be able to demonstrate it properly and all of that. So we will do that when we are ready and we can show it properly." And as well as this, he touched a little bit on PlayStation VR. Of course, VR has been doing fairly well for itself. Mostly the Vive, to be honest. The Oculus just seems to be doing a sort of flaming dive bomb at this point. But the Vive's been doing good, and obviously most eyes are now on the PlayStation VR and what that's going to do. And he said, quote, "Go to our room at E3, obviously, and check out the VR games and make up your own mind. That's for you and others to decide upon. We are completely confident that the lineup of 50 games, plus some of which we announced yesterday, which was serious in terms of heavyweight IP, that those games are going to provide a first-class VR experience. What we can say is that we have a fertile ground of 40 million PS4s, all of which will run PlayStation VR." So there you have it. That's why they decided to not show the Neo at E3, and I must say that even though the Neo would have been nice to reveal given that we had the reveal of the Scorpio from Microsoft, their conference was still pretty strong, and I liked they just focused on games and there wasn't a lot of fluff. We have seen actually a pretty good conferences all round this year where there's minimal fluff, lots of gameplay on display and all that, and it's really nice to see, especially after the last couple of years of, hey, here's a vertical slice, it's a complete lie kind of thing. And obviously we've undoubtedly got a little bit of that still, but it's nice to see just gameplay, you know? I would imagine we will be seeing the Neo this year, but it's going to be at another event, and they're going to obviously speak fairly lengthily about the hardware. Perhaps they even wanted to wait and see what Microsoft was actually doing with their machine. I mean, I'm not saying they haven't done any specs, because of course they have, but they were obviously watching carefully to see exactly how Microsoft presented their device, and perhaps they're going to come up with a counter-marketing strategy to kind of try and beat them to the punch, I suppose you could say, in terms of the race to sell the next thing in console gaming. I have no doubt that they've got plans for Gamescom or other similar events later on in the year, and they are giving Microsoft a head start. That is definitely a risk that they are taking, but we'll have to see. If the Neo is strong enough, then it might not matter, but they're definitely taking a little bit of a gamble. I appreciated the focus on games, but I think the presence from the Neo would have been nice, but still a strong conference from Sony and from Microsoft, so it's going to be interesting to see exactly what the future holds for both these consoles, which are undoubtedly going to release sometime in 2017. So, there you have it. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.